Welcome to the Blaize interview. My name is Blaize, and this is
Kevin Shapiro.
All right, Kevin. So, how'd you get into comedy? Like, what got you in the beginning?
Well, like, growing up, I always wanted to do, like, movies in one way or another. Like, when I was really little, I wanted to be an actor. Big surprise, right? You know? But,
doesn't every kid?
I guess, man, yeah. You know what's funny is, like, I remember one of the examples was Episode 1 Star Wars, that kid Jake Lloyd. I remember seeing that. I'm, like, 9 years old. We're the same age. I'm like, fuck this kid. Like, I could do that better. You know? Like, just hating on this dude.
I ain't gonna lie, I had the same thing. Do you remember those movies, the dance movie Step Up?
I think I know. Yeah.
Remember that little white girl? I forget her name, but she was dancing in it. She was also in the Missy Elliott
was that like Kirsten Dunst? Oh no, but I know what you're talking about, dude. I just saw her at a Lakers game, dude. They had a reunion thing. Anyway,
I was really into hip hop, and I really wanted to be a hip hop dancer when I was a kid, and I was like, damn, I could be her. I'm better than her. I was so salty. You know what I mean? I was the same way. I was like, I see her dancing in the videos, like, bitch, I could do that.
Dude,
I could do that.
I did a little bit of like pop locking, breakdance, that type of stuff. And there was a dude who was, I think, in that same video. Do you know who Mr. Wiggles was? Which sounds almost like some shit now, right? But like, nah, dude, Mr. Wiggles, look him up, dude. He had this crazy thing, the Wiggle Walk, which was like a forward glide where you do this shit with your feet. I don't know.
I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, that dude is fucking nuts.
I think I've seen that before. Yeah, I really love that shit. But then, so you wanted to be an actor?
I wanted to be an actor. Like, eventually, like, I don't know. I guess I'm not. Like, we're all kind of narcissists to be doing this, right? But, like, you know, not enough that I'm like, I need the attention, you know? Like, I kind of, like, ended up going a different direction where, like, now I'm much more of a writer, you know? So, like, I wanted to write screenplays, you know, some TV shows. I wrote a pilot.
Nice.
But, like, so it is something that I always wanted to try, but it was also because I wanted to write comedy stuff. Like, to me, it's like, how do I know? You know, we make each other laugh in conversation. We're all funny in our own circles, right? But there's a big difference between doing that in this type of situation with our friends, all that, and, like, writing stuff in advance for strangers. Or, you know, like, whatever, if you're improvising or whatever. There's a big difference between that and, like, just talking to a room of strangers and making them laugh.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, it felt kind of like, you know, R&D for my writing. So that's kind of how it started. And, like, but I fell in love with it the first time, which is funny because, like, dude, like, my first mic was at the Ha-Ha, and
that's a good one.
I didn't quite, like, I figured it out quickly enough, but, you know, like, some mics, you know, you got groups of friends and stuff, and, you know, so there's that, and then there's also the fact that everybody's a comic. So, I mean, like, you know, the way I look at that is that, you know, comedy is like a drug, right? And like, at least, you know, if you're doing it constantly, your tolerance grows. You know, like, I admit that I'm a terrible audience member, you know, like, and I know I need to work on that, but it'd be because I'm to the point where I just have watched so much and read so much and I write so much that, like, you know, I will legitimately think something's funny, but it's not going to get the ha 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 ha. You know, it's more like I'll just say, like, that's funny, and I mean it. You know, like,
but I appreciate that as an audience member, or as a comic one up there. When I hear an audience member, if they don't laugh, they say, "Oh, that's funny." You know what I mean? Or they say, "That's great." And especially when it comes from another comic, then you're just like, "All right, it's cool," because you know the comics are, like, I always say this: comics aren't always the ones to laugh. You know what I mean? They're always kind of like a lot, especially if you go, like, I always say this, the Hollywood Comedy Club, it's an ice house in there. Just everyone in there just has arms and legs folds, man.
But you know what I think about that, though, is that a couple of things. I feel like comics at a mic fall into a number of different categories. Either if I laugh at you, it somehow takes away from me, which is bullshit. It's not true. You know what I'm saying? But there's also, like, some people, you see them, they're writing in their notebooks and shit, which is, like, to a point I get it if somebody brings up but at the same time, like, you probably should have done your writing before you come to the mic. Like, you know, we're all artists. It's not easy to get up there. Show some respect is how I feel about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I get that.
There's that. There's also the fact of, like, you know, some people are nervous. You know, like, I know comics that I've talked to that have done it for, like, 10, 15 years, and they still get nervous on stage.
Yeah.
And then you see that. I'll admit, like, that's kind of like one of my big tendencies, like the guilty pleasure of mine, where, like, I'm like, oh, they're talking a good game, but, like, this motherfucker's nervous right now. You know, like, but it's not a malicious thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I said, I try to respect everybody, you know what I mean? To me, like, same with movies, like, I try not to say that something is a bad movie, because, like, having done writing and having been involved on some level, you know, in different types of productions, like, you know, a lot of work goes into that. You know what I mean? And, like, I don't want to shit on somebody else's hard work, or even, you know, like, your creative stuff, like your jokes. It's like, that's like your baby, you know? So, like, I don't want to disrespect people in that way. It's more just like, it's not my thing. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Oh, there's some jokes that you see some comics and you're just like, ooh. When the joke's so bad, you look at someone else for support. You're like, is that okay? Are you okay?
You heard this, right?
You heard this, right? You're looking around for like support. It's like, what just happened?
Right.
Sometimes that's the worst. That's the worst. It's like,
for sure. But you know what else I think too is like, it's kind of like, you know, in school, bro. Like the importance. How like influential a good teacher can be, and how detrimental a bad teacher can be, you know? And so like I feel like hosts are like that too. Hosts are not all created equal. If you get the guy who's up there like, I don't even know I'm fucking here, you know, like I could be doing something. Like why are you saying that? Or like, you know, I remember there was a guy one time who started a mic by saying like, you know, kind of that whole you know, when comics kind of get butthurt that people aren't laughing, you know, and they're like, well, you know, like, you couldn't do any better. I heard a guy start Mike saying something like, what did he say? Like, all right, start the energy now, because otherwise everybody's going to fucking bomb, and you're all going to do that. And, like, to me, it's like, why would you say that at a mic, too? Especially, like to me, and I will say, like, plug for Fourth Wall, where, like, as I recently, right, like, Joe is my favorite host anywhere, like, and the reason is that he doesn't say it every time, but he's the only person that I've ever heard actually say at the beginning of a mic, there's no such thing as bombing at an open mic, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, he'll say that a lot of times. I heard him say that, which is true.
It is, dude. That's the thing. Like we're talking about. Everybody's a fucking comic. You know, like if people don't laugh at your jokes at a mic, I won't say it doesn't mean anything. It could mean something, but chances are it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, but, you know, if somebody laughs, that's probably a good sign. You know what I mean? Like, so... But so yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like for me, is I think that people get too caught up in, you know, their own world, you know, concerned about how they're gonna do, and then the hosts, you know, have a lot to do with it too. But even the same room, dude, on two different nights. Like I mean, like even like I said, I love Fourth Wall. It's you know, it's like kind of my go-to place right now, because like between work and stuff, it's like really conveniently located and stuff. But like, you know, even from 1 hour to the next, sometimes people are more in their notebooks, or they're just more nervous or whatever, and they're not, you know, and that's like. You know, to me, like, you know, it doesn't matter. Either way is you know, there's room for growth either way. You know what I mean? I would almost say that, like, you know, there's more growth the times when the room is cold, too, right? Because, like, you know, like, if you can have fun,
if you can bring energy,
stuff, dude, like, that's an important skill, dude, you know, so.
I mean, you see me every time I go up there, I always try and grab people's attentions. I just say, speaking Spanish, you know, I'm just like yelling. I was like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
You gotta be, especially in a lot of mics, you just gotta be in their face. You know what I mean? You gotta wait. I'm like, hey, you're up.
Right.
And that's how it feels like those. Some of the mics, people were just like on their phone. I was one mic. I was right behind him, right? So it was using the front, and I was right behind him in the second row. It was at the Pasadena Comedy Club.
Okay. Yeah.
And dude was literally on his phone, just swiping. He was going through 3 apps. He was going through Hinge to Facebook.
Yeah, what the fuck
and
are you
Instagram,
doing there, man? Like,
and it's just like boom, boom, boom through 3 apps. That's it. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then and I called him out. Like I was like. I went up there and I said, bro, what the fuck you doing? I'm right behind you. You're on the same 3 fucking apps. You're just swiping through. You're not even like going through your material. Like it's one thing if you're going through your material. Like I understand like what you said earlier about the people writing in their notebooks. Sometimes it's not that it's. Yes, it's disrespectful, and yes, it's not disrespectful.
Well,
like,
writing is different. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because sometimes they do it, like, you'll say something, and then they'll write it, because it's usually what they'll do is they'll burn you on it, or they'll, like, riff on you, which I love. Which I feel is hard for me. Okay. I'm not one of those folks who, like, you'll say a joke, and I'll think of something funny, but then I get there, I forget it. Yeah. Because I get too worked up in my own shit.
You know, that's one of the things, and I agree with you, and even that, like, the notebook, sometimes, you know, I use the note app on my phone, too. So if I'm ever on my phone doing that during a mic, it's because, like you're saying, I found something that I want to riff on maybe, but I try to make it as brief as possible. But like, and so like I said, I'm not trying to make it out to be like, it's super disrespectful if people are writing, but at the same time, like what you're talking about, a dude fucking swiping on Tinder, like, bro, you're at a comedy club, you know, in the middle of the day, you're swiping through Tinder, you're not getting that anyway, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
dude was so stupid. It was bad. Yeah. The host we went up there was like, I forget the guy's name. Let's call him like Brian. Or he's like, Brian. It's like, do you want to be here?
Yeah.
Do you want? You don't have to be here. You can leave if you want to. Like we're here. Like you can put your phone away or you can leave. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's like I'll give you a refund, motherfucker.
Right.
And which I respect. You know what I mean, like you should do that as a host. Is you should command the attention of the room. Yeah. And what's hard to do for a lot of folks. I mean, have you hosted before?
I have hosted. Not a lot. Like, I've hosted at the Chateau during, like, the late night mics a couple of times. And, like, it's cool, dude. I mean, actually, that's funny that you say that. You know, the first hosting job, technically, I guess the first stand-up I ever did was my grandpa's 100th birthday party. Okay. We had, like, a big party for him. And, like, kind of last minute, too. You know, my parents... No, my parents asked me to, like, you know, MC the event. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and I was, whatever. I was nervous. I didn't do anything. I wrote most of the stuff, like, that day. But that I did kind of, like... There was a DJ, and we brought in, like, family members one by one, and then my grandpa came in last, right? And I was just kind of, like, roasting people there. But, you know, remember that... What's that song? Shit. I want to say... It's not Bust a Move. It's like the... You know what I'm talking about? Like, they play at the beginning of basketball games and stuff to bring out the team and shit. They don't really do it anymore, but it's like...
They still do it sometimes. Yeah, the Space Jam one.
Yeah, exactly.
The Jordan song.
Right.
I don't remember the name, but I know exactly
what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I was doing that, and you're like, so like, you know, like, and the biggest roast was like my sister-in-law. She's like this little Italian girl. She's like 5'2". She's like 100 pounds. And I was like, coming in at 7 feet tall and 300 pounds. She's a beast. Give it up for Aliana. And she walks out this little... So that was like the first time. But I mean, but it's like you're saying, you know, part of it is, you know, like, I feel like I took to that naturally for the reason that I taught martial arts for a long time to kids. And like, if you're teaching kids, like, and you're standing up in front of a room, it doesn't matter what you're teaching. I mean, like, I just had the benefit of I could beat the kids if they...
I could beat your ass, motherfuckers.
Exactly, dude. Like, hey, Johnny, this is a round kid. You
know, like, legally, you're allowed to beat the fuck out of these kids.
Dude, it was sweet, dude. It's better. It's the best thing you can teach. But no, so I... you know, I'm used to putting on a show for people, you know what I mean, in that regard, because that's like, yeah, you got to have the confidence, you got to be loud, you got to grab their attention, because a 5-year-old doesn't have a fucking, especially now, you know what I mean?
Don't pick
like,
the fucking nose.
Exactly, dude, you know, and like, that's, you know, you beat him for that too.
You sound like my daddy now. Boy, why you picking your nose?
I'm just paying it forward, dude, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like I'm the only father figure in his life, so I gotta beat his ass.
Yeah, exactly, you know, daddy's away doing business stuff, you know, it was in like, it was in a really rich neighborhood, so I mean, like, even that holds challenges too, you know, these kids are like, they're so used to being like stimulated, you know, a lot of spoiled kids and stuff, so like, yeah, dude, so it's like, you know, it's like the toughest love that they've ever gotten, you know what I mean, which is, you know, it's
not that much.
It does it well for those people. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, little front kick to the face. Like, what? Daddy never does. Well, you should. You know?
Should. Like, you deserve it. You motherfucking piece of shit.
Yeah. But yeah, man. No, but I mean, yeah, hosting, like, you know, you're setting the precedent. You know, you're framing the whole mic the way that you open it up. And again, that's another reason why I love Joe too. You know what I mean? Because like, on top of the fact that he makes it a welcoming thing, I mean, you've seen him, dude. That guy's got so much fucking energy through the roof. And you know, whether it's the Hollywood comedy or whether it's the Chateau, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Not everybody has that same energy, you know, and like, you know, again, it's not a statement about them, but it does make a difference.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's some people who you go to every single one of their mics, every single one, doesn't matter what they do, they're always at the top of their game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Granted, they're probably doing coke, but that's the here or there.
You know,
it's Hollywood, baby. It's Hollywood.
That's right, man. Yeah, dude, some people it's coffee. Some people it's a little bit of Adderall. You know, like, you know, wash it down with a little bit of cocaine.
It's fun being a host. I've hosted a few times. I've even hosted like a Baka show once, and it's fun. It's just like, what I do feel like is a little nerve-wracking because you don't want to step on people's like jokes and stuff like that, or like, because I've been at a host where someone will say something, I'll riff it, and then the comic goes like, oh, I was gonna riff on that, but I feel like you should still riff on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's two things about that. I would say, even if it's the exact same joke, too fucking bad, dude. Like, you had a good idea, it doesn't mean you can't come up with another good idea. Why should you we'll get new aging. We'll get like self-help Instagram for a second. Like, why dim your light for other people? Bro? You know what I'm saying? But like, for real, you know, like, what, you know, you had the good idea, you had the opportunity first. So what? You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason. I did a show exactly like that, and it was like right when I was starting out, and there was a guy. I like to do voices and like impressions and stuff, and I had this idea for a joke about, like, you know, how there's a couple of voices that are similar, like like Yoda, Stitch, and like Smeagol from the Lord of the Rings are very much like the exact same voice, just like a little bit different pitch or a little bit of
dialect.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I was talking about like a voice dial, you know, and the host goes up and like he opens too, and he like says like this exact joke, and I'm like, motherfuck, I was gonna do that, but at the same time, you know, like I didn't do the whole bit.
Yeah.
But I still did it, you know, but I just put it in a different context instead of like obviously like making it out to be my idea. I was like, hey man, I like what you said. And you know, like, you ever notice how you can use that same dial with, you know, this voice and that voice? It's like there's
immediately when you said that, first thing I thought about was you just twisting your nipples.
Yeah. You see, I didn't think about that, bro. But again, like, and that, like what you're saying, like, why can't you riff on somebody's stuff? Like, it's interesting too, like the people take things. We can never control people's interpretations of things, right? Because like even that, to go in a different direction when you riff off of somebody's material, some people might get offended at that too. Like, oh, what? Like, you think you do my material better than me? Like this one time, like I went to the Laugh Factory open mic, and I forget who it was, but they were talking about like getting a service animal. They were talking about a dog, you know, and like. I have a service animal bit, so like I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do that. And I can't remember if he laughed or not, but I remember thinking afterwards, like, I wonder if I shouldn't like piggyback in that way where I had that bit prepared, but you know, like, does he feel offended because like I'm stealing his bit or something? Which I'm not. It's my fucking joke, right?
No.
But like,
I've had a situation where I felt like someone stole my joke because the entire premise, like the first half of the joke, was heard my like the same word, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, because when he started saying that, I was like, okay, but then the second half was completely different.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure if he wrote that beforehand or not, but like it was just interesting because I was that mic, I was the first one to go up, and he went like 7 people after me, and I was just like,
Well, and even that, right? If they go in a different direction, it's a different joke too, right? You know, but I get what you're saying. Like it's tough though, but I mean, I think another way to look at it too is like, there's no new ideas anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
it's hard to have a
like,
new idea.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a new twist on something, like it came from somewhere. You know, like people like to talk about, you know, somebody stole my idea or somebody stole this, and like, bro, like you go back in history, like
look at the 1950s.
Everything is stolen, bro. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, again, I don't know. Like,
I mean, relating to you know, Kanye, I was like the reference to Kanye, but like he like thing is like people would downplay.
I want to just mention, you know, I'm Jewish, right? So like, but no.
Yeah, it is what it is. It does not have anything to do with here or there, but it's just his music stuff.
Yeah.
So his music stuff, like when he was first coming up, people would downgrade his music and say it wasn't as good because technically all he does is sample. You know what I mean? But the shit he samples was fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Like half of his everything he makes.
Well, and people act like, you know, the beginnings of hip hop were not like sample based. Also, I mean, like back in the day, there was so much, and I love that shit too. I'm with you, which is funny. Like that's a discussion that, like, you know, I've had with my dad a few times too, because like, you know, we talk about cover, like the Fugees. He hated Killing Me Softly, right? Killing Me Softly is a cover of it's not Bob Dylan, but whatever. Killing Me Softly is a cover of a song.
Yeah.
Okay? But the song is based off of a poem that somebody wrote. So it's already stolen from that regard. And that poem is based off of this person saw Bob Dylan performing a song and wrote this poem based off of that song. So it's like, you know, is it really? No, it's you're being inspired by something, you know? Like, I like that quote, like, you know, stealing from one source is plagiarism, stealing from multiple sources is research, you know what I mean? But even that, you know, like, even if it's one source and you just put a twist on it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I'm not convinced that it's like stealing or whatever, you know, I don't know. It's a good song.
It is a good song. I do love it.
Dude, Lauryn Hill, remember her rap, dude? She was talking about, I'm gonna shit on your microphone before like any of these motherfuckers were saying, like, while you imitate Al Capone, I'll be Nina Simone, and defecating on your microphone, dude. Like, dude, Lauryn Hill.
I love the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That whole album is just beautiful. I gotta get that record now that I'm thinking about it. That's one record I gotta go look for now, because I've gotten the Purple Rain Princess album, but like I need to get a Lauryn Hill album now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Because we were talking beforehand, like I want to put some more records up. I just haven't had like the time or money to do it.
Dude, everything, yeah.
Everything's expensive.
Man. Money doesn't grow on trees, unfortunately. I get one of the money trees, dude. Unless you grow weed, I guess. You know, then like if that's your business, then
it grows from the plants.
Like, yeah.
But you know, everything's simple. I mean, I love this, like, you know, when you start out as a comic, your first thing that you do is your mimicry. You know what I mean? When you're an artist, you mimic other artists. And so, like, for me, the people who I would always, like, imitate would be, like, George Lopez, Gabriel Iglesias, you know, Richard Pryor. Those are kind of, like, the inspirations that I draw from when I'm, like, you know, when I was first coming up. Yeah. Where were you, like, drawing from? Was it just, like, more research and development kind of aspect? Or
No. Well, I mean, I always like stand-up comedy, too. To me, like, the GOAT, my number one comedy idol is Dave Chappelle. You know, like, I love his ability. Like, that's a writer, you know what I mean? And like, and I really like his ability to talk about touchy subjects, but in a well thought out way, to the point where, like, he does make a joke, but he's not really, like, for example, you know, like, when he's talking about trans people, that's a hot topic, right? Everybody, like, their buttholes tense up when, you know, like, it's a joke about that. But if you listen to you know, I don't want to speak absolutely right, because maybe there's jokes I don't remember. But from what I remember, it's not like he fails to acknowledge that a trans woman is a woman, for example.
Yeah.
You know, he's just talking about certain concepts, right? Like, same thing, you know, like, he has one of my favorite jokes about kind of like the compared suffering between Jewish people and black people. You know, where he's talking about, like, you ever play Who Suffered More with a Jew? It's a tough game. It's a tough game. And they're like, what about Egypt? And you're like, oh shit, I didn't know we were going that far back. You know,
I remember that.
That's great, dude. You know, and like, nobody's you know, he's speaking truths. You know, how can you deny that? You know, and he's not saying. You know, he's not saying he loves Hitler either, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I'll lay off for Kanye, bro. But
actually, there was a great bit. I just found it this morning. I need to pull it up because they're actors, comedians. But they played the game, and it was called Who Said It, Hitler or Kanye?
That's fucking funny.
Oh, bro, and it came out 13 years ago. This is 13 years ago. It was Garfield and Oates. Those were the comics. It was who said it, Kanye or Hitler? And I saw that this morning, and I was just blown out of my fucking. And it was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And the fact that Kanye came out and said all this shit on all this crazy shit, I'm just like, Kanye, come on, my man.
But it's true, man. You know, and like, you know,
the Jews did. I'm just kidding.
Right, exactly.
That's what he said in Kanye's.
But that's an example, like, you know, in terms of like the opposite of Dave Chappelle, right? Mm-hmm. Like, as an artist, and, you know, we were talking about this too, you know, you and I are kind of like more towards the beginning of our journey as comedians and stuff. Yeah. But like, when you get to that level, you have a platform where a lot of people are listening to what you say. So it is important for you to not just be spreading, you know, just bullshit and hate and all that type of stuff too. You know, like, I forget who it was, but there was like a rapper who was talking about how, you know, he didn't think it was an artist's position to be able to, like, you know, comment on society or like send a message. And I'm like, no, it absolutely is, because millions of people are listening to you and they're going to take what you say into account, you know? And so, like, that's where, like, the defining line is why I think it's so terrible. Like, you know, some people, and I'm not saying, you know, I think that it sounds like some of the things he's saying, it's partly to be relevant, you know, like, oh, well, like, maybe I haven't had a, you know, record that's, I don't know, whatever the motivation is, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, the need for attention. Bro, find some fucking other way to get attention, you know? Like, I know that we live in this reality TV culture where, like, you know, it's all about the drama and stuff, but think about what you're saying, bro. Like, you know, and I don't want to... This is going to be a 3-hour podcast.
Go ahead. About Kanye. I miss the old Kanye. Freelance is the meta Kanye.
but yeah, no, but, like, the idea that it's... this idea, like, oh, the Jews stole my wife, and, like, you know, they've been fucking me and all that type of stuff. Like, when you say that stuff and you're serious about it and you mean it, like, that is quite literally, bro, that's the exact same logic that they used in pre-World War II Germany to justify the Holocaust. The Jews took all our jobs. They stole all of our riches. They're banging all of our women. I don't know about that last part. But, but yeah, dude, like, that's And people are listening to that, you know? So, like, that is dangerous. Versus, you know, on the flip side, Dave Chappelle is talking about these things where, like, to me, when he makes a joke about a trans person or the LGBTQIA plus community or whatever, Jews or whatever, he's not saying it in a malicious way, but he's also bringing up topics that we should be able to talk about. Okay, like, part of being included, number one is being included in the fun.
Yes.
Okay? Number two, like, we should be able to have discussions. Just because I'm a straight cisgender white guy doesn't mean that I should never be able to utter a word about, you know, whatever group. You know, like, if I'm saying it hatefully, of course not. That's not okay.
Yeah.
We need to respect each other, right? But we need to be able to have a discussion. You know what I mean? I have a bit about, you know, a fairly extended bit about, like, the shared suffering of black people and Jewish people, too. And, like, the premise is that I think we should be best friends, right? But there's some edgy stuff there, and I have offended people before, and like, you know, they've come up to me, but that's the point, is that you should be able to come up to me and tell me why what I said upset you, so that we can have that discussion, whether maybe there's an angle that I didn't consider. Because like, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I want to make people laugh, but I do want to make people think about stuff, you know? So like, I don't know, that's I think we should be able to have the discussion is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with that. I'm a big believer is, don't tell me something and don't explain it. You know what I mean? Because like, you could say something, but it doesn't mean that it matters. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that. Okay, why don't you like that?
Right.
And what is it about you? Oh, it's not nice. Okay, well, why is it not nice? Oh, because it's not supposed to. It's not proper. Well, what is it about it? It's not proper. You know what I mean? Right. And the thing is, like, for me, it's about like just finding the understanding, because I'm a very dumb person. So I like to like really get.
I don't know about that, bro. I don't think you can be dumb and do comedy. You know?
Yeah,
I mean?
well,
like,
yeah.
This is not a, you know. Anyway, but
yeah, but like, I want to understand why you hate something, why you love something, because you could just say something but not understand why you're saying it.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's stupid. Why is that stupid? Oh, because it's dumb. Why is it dumb? Because it's, you know, lacks intelligence, lacks, you know, give me more nuance than just like a simple statement.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of folks don't want to just dig deeper into why they feel something about something.
Right. Well, sometimes they might not know either, too, right? You know what I mean? I don't know why it bothers me. It just bothers me. But people won't say that either. You know what I mean? Like, it turns into a blame game. Like, well, it bothered me because you said something wrong. Like, no, bro. Like, really, explain to me. If you can explain to me in a way that I haven't seen it and consider it. Because, you know, okay, well, like, just for like a little tangent, right? Like, you know, people talk about, you know, racist jokes, sexist jokes, homophobic jokes,
school shooting jokes.
But what I'm getting at is the idea that if you're at a comedy club, if you're at a mic, to me, those types of jokes, racist jokes, homophobic jokes, school shooting jokes, these jokes, those don't exist. There's a funny joke or there's a not funny joke. There's a well thought out joke, and there's a joke that's just like, bro, you're just saying something offensive that isn't even clever. Yeah, exactly. You know, like, I mean, there's shock jokes that can still be clever, right? You know, like Anthony Jeselnik is a comic that, like, his entire thing is just, I'm going to say the most shocking thing and just act like I'm a piece of shit and then talk about how great I am. You know what I mean? Like, that's his bit. That's his character. Yeah. And that's fine.
He's a good person. From what I heard, he's a good person behind the scenes.
Well, that's another thing, right? Is that, like, you know, what somebody says on stage, you know, is not necessarily who they are in real life. You know what I mean? And, like, there's the performance aspect, right? But, and that's, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, too, talking about another thing. People don't consider the context and the intention. Some of the things that I say on stage, I would not say them talking to a stranger in a bar. Because I have enough respect, and it's like the situation, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that I think I'm saying anything wrong, it's just more that I know, especially today, right? Like, how easy it is to fucking film somebody, post it online, leave a Yelp review, all this shit. I have a really big phone, you know what I mean? But, like,
I mean, you could technically do that.
Right. But yeah, dude, you know, you don't know who's standing around or who's going to take, like, a chunk of what you say and just blow it out of proportion. Yeah, man. So, I mean, like, I don't know. Those things are also really important, the context and the intention. At a comedy club, I give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, like, I'm not going to assume that they're racist, even though I'm sure there are people who are using it as a platform to say racist shit because they're like, oh, I can't get in trouble for this.
Dave Chappelle said that because when he accepted that award a few years ago, like it was 2018, 2019.
Was it the Mark Twain Award? Is that the
thing? I think so. And he said in there is like you'll go in a comedy club and you'll say someone who's the most racist person in the world, but they won't say anything racist on stage. But then you hear people and they say some racist stuff on stage, and you get off stage and you're like, that motherfucker really means that shit.
Right, exactly, dude. No, for sure. No, it's unbelievable, dude. People definitely like, and that's the other thing is that people are much more likely to leave a bad review than a good review, right? If somebody doesn't like something, they're gonna say some shit about it. You know?
Yeah, people only sue the doctors they dislike. They don't sue the doctors they like.
Right, there you go. Right, they don't come back and say like, "Hey, thanks for saving my life. Here's an extra $5,000." Yeah, dude. But like, like, oh, like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah.
Going back to your platforming, back in like the late '80s, early '90s, Charles Barkley ran this ad called "I'm Not a Hero" ad. Do you remember that one?
No.
No, it was a shoe commercial. So it's shot in black and white, and there's a whole bunch of cut scenes, and it's Charles Barkley playing basketball, dunking, and it says, "I am not a hero. Teachers are hero. Policemen are hero. He's listing all these people. I play basketball. I don't need to raise your kids too." You know what I mean? And that's what the message is like, I'm a basketball player, not a role model. And I feel like nowadays, even LeBron James nowadays, he's like, I'm a role model. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. He's opening a school, he's doing all these charities and all these camps and all this stuff. So do you feel more like Charles Barkley is on that stage where like he feels like just because I'm here, I acclaimed this fame and wealth, doesn't mean I need to be a role model to your child because I'm this person, I'm me.
Yeah, I think that like, I get what you're saying.
Like Andrew Tate.
I can agree with that. That like, just because you're put in that position doesn't mean that you have to try and make a difference. But there's a difference between that. There's a difference between like trying to make a difference and acknowledging the fact that like, I'm not a hero. Like, whether you like it or not, Charles Barkley, you are somebody's hero. You know what I'm saying? And they are idolizing you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, no, maybe you don't have... You're right. Like, you don't have to raise people's kids. You don't have to tell them to stay in school, don't do drugs, whatever, that type of shit. But, like, because that never works, right? Look at us, you know what I mean? But
dare? I've been daring, bro.
Do you ever, like, pass those guys in front of the, like, the Rite Aid or whatever? They got the dare table set up. And they're like, hey, can you... I'm like, no, I'm not the guy.
I've had that once. And I said, he was like, you want to just like, nah, bro, I smoke too much weed for that shit. Yeah. And they look at me like mortified. Like I told them like I just molested a child or something. I'm like, what the fuck? Like they're like, we smoke weed?
Yeah.
It's bad. No, I get that. But it's hard. Like, would you ever feel like yourself as a role model? You've taught kids, so you feel like you...
Well, that's part of the reason. So like, and you've heard me talk about this before, but like I work in the adult industry as well, know? So like, and part of that, people ask me if I ever like am the guy fucking on camera, and I have not been that guy. And in the past, that was definitely part of my motivation. Is I'm like, I don't need a bunch of kids see Mr. Shapiro's cock. Like, hey, that guy taught me to front kick. Now he's teaching me to doggy style. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
hey, you know what? You're teaching them multiple things in their lives. You're teaching them self-defense.
And that's true. And that's a positive. And then we come back to framing, right? How important the right, like you could look at it as like, oh, what's that? That's terrible. People are going to see him naked, doing whatever, and it's like.
Does it matter anymore?
For one thing, no, who cares, right? Most of those kids are like grown up, right? But that was holding me back at one point, and like we're talking about, it's a relative thing, I mean, there you get into the, kind of like the discussion of like, right and wrong as like a whole, right? Is it wrong for anybody to have sex or to do it on camera, right? Like, that was probably more in my head than anything else. I don't think it's inherently wrong that they would, because like it's like, why are you on Pornhub? All right, little boy. You're
like, well, let me turn this back on to you. It's like, well, my daddy left it open. I was like,
right. But yeah, no, I mean it's. I don't know. There's a lot to address there, dude. It's hard to say, but yeah, I mean, I guess. In a nutshell, I'd say whether you're a teacher or not, we never know the effect that we have on other people. Most of the time, maybe not never, but like, I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've had kids who have contacted me years later and they've been like, thank you for teaching me when I was a kid. Like, you made an impact on my life, and like that's... How would I have ever known that? I mean, to a point I could guess, like, sure, they had fun or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, like, you never know what's going on with other people.
Especially kids.
Yeah, dude. You could, even if it's not that type of relationship where I taught them a skill that will stay with them for the rest of their life, like, even if it's just you said one nice thing to a person on one day that you never saw again.
You're like, hey, that was a good front flip, bro. That was a good kick.
Exactly. You never know how that could affect somebody, you know? So, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I worked at a weed shop, too. And I've worn many hats, you know? Like, but I remember my first day, they put me out on the floor, and, like, this guy comes in, he asks for a care package. So, like, that shop, we used to give weed to sick people and stuff, like, just give them free stuff, you know? Like, whether it was edibles or, like, flour or whatever, right? And this guy comes up, and I'd never done it before. It's my first day. And I said, oh, yeah, let me go check. I don't know how, whatever. I didn't know how to do it. I come back. The guy gets mad, and he's like, can I get somebody who knows what they're doing, please? And, like, I got kind of offended. You know what I mean? I'm like, the fuck, man? You know, like, I know what I'm doing. This isn't rocket science, but I didn't know, you know, what you needed. I didn't know where the list was. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
It turns out that guy had pancreatic cancer, which, if you're not aware, is one of the more painful types of cancer, apparently. And this guy walks in the next time, literally like wheeling in an IV, you know? So it kind of registered to me, number one, on my side, where I was like, you know, well, fuck this guy for being a dick. No, like, that guy was in a lot of pain and probably needed the medicine that I was going to give him. You know what I mean? So there's that on my side, right? But then, you know, time goes on, and I help this guy in the future, and, like, we ended up, you know, becoming buddies, you know, as much as you can be with somebody at the weed store or whatever. Like, you know, so, but he comes in, I remember one day, I think he might be the one of two people that ever said something, but he pulls me aside and he says, like, you know, like, I know that, and this was like 10 years ago or something, so it wasn't quite as accepted, you know, it wasn't legal in California yet or whatever, but he's like, yeah, you know, a lot of people, they look down on this, but, like, you do a lot of good, you're doing a really good thing for people, you're helping people here. And it's like that 10 years later, I still remember that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it affected me in a positive way, right? You know, like, he ended up dying. I was very sad. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I mean, it's fair, but, like, the way you said it, it's just so nonchalant that you didn't die, but, you know, I was, not to laugh at his death, but the way you said it was just like, oh, yeah, he died. Oh, anyway, so.
That's cool, man. Yeah, we got to be able to laugh at stuff, right?
Laugh at pain.
But, yeah, no. Well, and even that, man, you know, his son came in after that, you know, and, like, after his dad died, and for obvious reasons, was very emotional and stuff. But the son thanked us, too. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I was like, get your fucking secondhand thanks out of here. No,
you man, fucking peasant.
It's like what your dad said, that was real shit. But
what you said didn't matter.
But yeah, but you never know that. Exactly. Like, that's a guy that I saw maybe twice, you know, because he came in with his son. I mean, sorry, with his dad. And, like, he still came back. And, you know, I'm just getting at, like, as simple as it was for me to be like, hey, this is good weed. Have some of this. You know, like, I affected their lives positively. You know what I mean? I helped ease the dad's pain. That, you know, which in turn eases the son's pain, you know? Yeah. Watching his dad suffer. Like, you know, like, we don't know how we affect people. So, and that's another reason why, you know, I think it's so important to treat people with respect, be nice all the... You know? Like,
fuck that. Be as mean as possible. Fuck everyone's ass.
Yeah, man. But yeah, dude, no, it's...
Right. When it comes, I'm gonna go back to real quick to comedy and just writing. Like, what's the difference? Do you feel is like there's a different mindset when it comes to like writing for, you know, a movie or a show versus writing for on stage? Like, what's the different mindset for comedy in that sense?
That's a good question. Goddamn, Blaize, I don't think I ever thought about that. No, but I mean, I mean, like, there's structure in both contexts, right?
So let's start off with like writing a joke. Like, how do you write a joke for the stage?
Well, so, like, it kind of just starts with an idea, man, you know? Like, I kind of chuckle. I think, you know, part of it is, you know, might seem obvious, but, like, having certain experiences, even if it's as simple as, like, going into a Wikipedia black hole and you're just reading about shit, right? Yeah. I mean, like, or even taking a walk. Like, I was walking around the block after I worked out the other day, and I hear these two old guys in the front yard, like 60 or 70. One guy's like, yeah, I just bought a new washer and dryer 18 years ago. Like, I'm like, that's amazing. See, like, I never would have wrote that, but that shit is funny, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, you got to get out more, pal. But so, like, there's, you know, like, that type of thing, you know, just having experiences, you know, you find that inspiration somewhere. And then, like, you know, like, you can't, I mean, you can't. I don't want to tell other people because, like, what works for me is not necessarily what works for you or anybody else. You know, I'd never say that there's only one way to skin a cat. You know, I'm a cat owner. You know, don't worry. But,
he's skinning him.
Yeah. Bit by bit. I got the softest socks you ever seen. But But yeah, like, I think it's important that you don't just write during those moments, because, like, what if you don't have a moment of inspiration for a while? Anyway, whatever. Like, a joke versus a screenplay, like, a joke, I think it's kind of just... That's tough, man. I guess it's not that different. It's just a different context, like... Because, if you're writing a screenplay, I think that you don't want the end to be predictable. But I think the same thing about a joke, Or if it is predictable, you want to wait just long enough that you can make it seem unpredictable,
Would it be like when you're writing comedy, you're writing for yourself in your own voice, but when you're writing a joke like for a screenplay, would it be more like you're writing it for that character?
That is a really good perspective, and I would say absolutely, because, like, to me, good writing, you've probably seen this, everybody's seen this, a show where... And, we won't call it bad writing, but we'll call it a different type of writing, right? You see shows where every character speaks the exact same way. And, like, in theory, if you're writing really good characters, they should all have their own voice, right? So, yes, like, absolutely, there's a difference where it's, like, for me, like, I don't really have, like, a comedy persona that's not me, you know what I mean? Like, on stage, that's who I am, you know what I mean? Like, and who I am, I'm not always talking about some really dark shit, but that's my sense of humor too. You know, like, so yeah, no, I definitely would say, because they both have structure too. It's just the structure's a little different. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's not all that different. Like, I guess the main difference would be in the execution, right? Like, me personally, even though, like my jokes that I feel are, like, well put together, I'll probably tell them pretty similar, if not the same way. Like, I'm not a comic who writes everything out verbatim. I found out that, like, for me, that hurts me more than it helps me. I'm more of, like, a bullet points guy, like, because I've tried both. I've tried... You
don't need bowling, you don't need the bumper roads.
Right, exactly, dude. Actually, coming back to, like, way back when you were talking about imitating, like, the way I look at it as far as, like, when you're starting something out, I take, like, the snow sports, whether you're skiing or, like, snowboarding or whatever. Like, when you're first learning, you're following the teacher's tracks. Yeah. You literally are trying to stay in their tracks. And then once you know what you're doing, you make your own tracks. You know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, I like that metaphor. But yeah, I guess that's... Yeah, the process is just that, kind of just, reworking it and stuff. I guess that's the other thing is that... But you still have your revision process, too. Because I was going to say, like, a joke, I'll tell a joke, and if I think of something, I'll add to it, Or if I don't maybe get the response, maybe I'll try and tweak the wording a little bit, you know? So that's a little bit more direct, I guess, because the feedback you get from an audience, even if it's just comics, it's hard to say it's more informative. But what I'm getting at is, like, if I were to give you a screenplay and you read it, it's still very subjective. Obviously, jokes are still subjective, too. But, like, what you say about it, I can agree with or disagree. I guess it's not. Writing's writing, bro. I was thinking at one point, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, the research, if I'm writing a screenplay or something, like, I want to, really research the stuff that I'm writing about so that I can be kind of true to... whether it's details about a certain job or something, or like an animal or whatever, like but I'm going to do the same shit for a joke, so, yeah.
Yeah, like, I never thought about it, like, another thing, like, you probably may have never thought of it, like, the difference between, like, a writing room and a comedy, like, open mic. Like, is there a difference, do you feel? Like, what's the
Well, you might be giving me a little too much credit, bro. I've never been in a writing room before, okay. Like, my writing room, I go to a writing group, but even that's more just, like, social pressure to get work done, Like, I haven't actually worked in a writing room yet, where, like, that's the job and everybody's, collectively working together towards the same goal, But in some respects, I think it's the same. I guess the main difference would be, from what I know about writing rooms, is that it's more of an open forum. Like, when you're at a mic, hopefully people are not just chiming in left and right about your joke. Yeah. But afterwards, if you're talking to other comics and stuff, I imagine it would be a lot the same, so.
Oh, yeah. I've taken one writing class in college, so I hated it so much because I didn't hate the class, I just hated when they gave me feedback. Because there's one motherfucker in the class who I did not respect any of their opinions. Anything that came out of their mouth, I did not like it. You know what I mean? They're just stupid. And, you know, they go around the room and we had to, like, do our scene and blah, 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 and they give you feedback. So we're not allowed to say anything, right? When this motherfucker came up, I tried so hard to say anything. You know, so hard, my eye was literally twitching. I was like, just like, my eyes never twitched before or since. And it's only when that motherfucker spoke and I couldn't say shit. I was like...
But yeah, no, it's I can relate to that.
You can relate to that, yeah.
No, man, it's tough. Well, so you like... I grew up doing art like my whole life in one way or another. Like I used to draw, I used to paint a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly what you're talking about, I was painting this mural for my mom. And like, it's a fucking mural. I'm doing it for my mom. It's literally a gift. Like they're not paying me for that shit. You know, like it's hard to paint. If you never painted a mural, it's hard. All right,
yeah.
Like it takes a lot of work. But I just remember that, you know, like I ended up pretty much just stopping for like a number of years working on this mural because like, you know, every now and then, you know, like whether it was my mom or my dad would walk up and they'd be like, hey, like why haven't you done this over here? Or like you should really do this. I'm like, would you like to paint the fucking mural? You know? Like, bitch, this is a gift, like, you know. And you know, that's the thing about art too, whether it's a joke or a drawing or a film or whatever, is that until it's done, like 90% of the time it's gonna look like shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's that last when you finish it and it's put together, now you see the full picture, you know? So, like, that's tough. But I get it, you know what I mean? Like, and especially because, like, the creative process, too, you know, it's like what you're making is your baby, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, you don't want somebody seeing your newborn and be like, this kid's got a weird shaped head, bro. Like, you know
calling your baby ugly. It happened to me when I got my dog. It was like, oh, you got an ugly dog. I was like, bitch, I'm about to kick you in the fucking face. Like, the fuck? They was like, why is your dog so fat and ugly? And I was like, damn.
You're like, why are you so fat and ugly?
Yeah,
bro?
right?
Get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck are you, bitch? Man. Who the fuck is you?
Yeah.
Shit. No, but it is interesting. It is hard to write because, you know, I've written nothing. I've written one thing. And it was a play for school, and it was about it was an Adam and Eve twist, where Cain and Abel are still in their mother's bellies, but Cain kills Abel. So Abel is in Eve's belly, and Cain is in the mistress's belly, and her name is Susanna because she's a snake.
Okay.
And so
she's a what?
Snake.
Oh, a snake. Okay.
So the apple is infidelity. So that Adam takes to bite the apple, which is the snake, which is the woman. And so at the end, basically, Susanna is involuntarily the reason why Eve dies, and so Abel dies as well. So technically, Cain kills Abel in the whole thing.
Okay.
But it's kind of like that's the whole metaphor I was going with.
Yeah.
But it was poor.
Well, what do you know? Like that's a subjective thing, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and that's tough. Like, I mean, I don't know enough about Susanna. Was this?
Well, you know
that
the
a
snake
real thing? Like, I know about the snake.
I just googled up S names and like I just looked up like names that mean cheating for females and
okay,
like,
is that what Susanna means? Dude?
No.
Like, okay.
It just was illiterate. You know what I mean? I just sounded sexy and I was like, Susanna.
Well, the snake, like a hissing sound or whatever. I get that. No,
yeah,
but I was just wondering if like that was one of the things that like. You know, my grandpa, he's dead now. But, like, he used to know... He was, like, my dictionary, like, my encyclopedia growing up. He knew fucking everything, man. But he always knew, like, the origin of people's names, you know? Like, this deli that I used to take him to, there was a woman there who worked there. Her name was Delilah. And I just... This is stuck with me where he's like, yeah, you know who Delilah was in the Bible? Like, which is funny, because if you know the story, right? Like, Delilah was the one... who basically seduced Samson, who like had his hair that made him strong and stuff, and like while he was asleep, she cut off his hair, and that's how they fucking were able to imprison Samson. You know, and like, anyway, so he tells her that story. He's like, the origin of your name is like kind of a bitchy lady, you know. But so but I mean,
Lilith Lilith was technically Adam's first wife. If you know anything about like,
okay, I've heard of the, like, but again, like I need to read the Bible, bro. Like I mean, clearly I need God. You know what I mean?
I don't read the Bible. Aren't you Jewish? You're supposed to read the
Old Testament, bro. Yeah. But it's still a Bible. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. No, I was saying like I didn't grow up reading the Bible, but I did go to church a little bit, so I know stories here and there. But it's also like you said, the Wikipedia rabbit hole. So like I like just like the whole mystery behind the whole like religion, and not just Christianity, but like Muslims, Hindu, Buddhism, like how did it start, like all the nooks and crannies. Like I always go on like, oh, why do they believe this? Oh, why did this happen? Like for me, like it's just the depth of like storytelling, like how like what the Bible is. There's so much like blood and murder and just like rape in the Bible.
It's like Game of Thrones, bro.
Yeah, it's literally like, Game of Thrones. Like honestly, it's just like the Bible's Game of Thrones for motherfuckers in the Middle East, in the medieval times.
Right. No, but and that's and without trying to offend anybody, because like everything fits into the same thing, right? Like it's religious, but essentially it's mythology, right? Like,
yeah. Well, mythology's fun.
But the only reason I say that is because like the Greeks, those were their gods. It was religion to them at that point, and that's why I put in the whole umbrella term. But dude, I'm with you, man. That's one of the reasons why like I do want to read the Bible, the Quran, like all that type of stuff, because like I love like the Kojiki, like all Eastern religions and stuff. I love that shit. Which like I don't know. It's interesting to me. It's as a tangent. It's not relevant to the conversation.
That's fine.
But like in anime, bro. Like if you're an anime guy, like for example Naruto, right? Orochimaru.
Yeah.
That was a fucking like serpent deity, bro.
Yeah.
That, like they put all of these little plants of like the religion. Like,
yeah.
Amaterasu,
Movies.
you know what I mean? Like Susanoo. Those are all like Japanese deities. Like Susanoo was like the god of wind and or thunder or something like that. Amaterasu and whatever the other one, but those are like the sun and moon gods and stuff that like dipped the sword into the water and the drops came down and became the island of the pan. Like that shit is so dope. Dragon Ball Z, that's one of my favorite stories. Like I don't know if do you know the one about the hyperbolic time chamber?
Yeah.
So like but I mean the story, like there was a turtle. There was basically this guy's like a fisherman, and he sees this turtle is in trouble. I forget how, right? And he like saves the turtle. And, like, all of a sudden the turtle becomes a fucking princess, and she's like, hey, thanks for saving me. I want to introduce you to my dad, And, like, they go to, like, who's like, a dragon god.
Yeah.
And, like, he wants to offer this guy, like, his daughter for marriage or whatever for saving her and stuff. And, like, the palace is, like, and just this beautiful imagery. The palace has, like, 4 corners. Each one is, like, a different season. You got summer, winter, all that shit, like... And then, like, he thinks about it. He's like, well, I don't know. I have my family back home. And so he leaves the palace, and he goes back to where he's from, and he finds out that, like, 300 years have passed. Everybody's fucking dead. You know what I mean? So, like, there's the hyperbolic time chamber. But it's like Disney, right? Like, it's a much less happy ending in the original myth. But, like, that type of thing, dude, it's fascinating to me. It's really cool, Why did we talk about this?
We're talking about theology and just history, just like going through it. I mean, Disney even has like Thor, and they throw in a little bit of
Norse mythology.
North that word. But like that stuff's cool to me. You know what I mean? Like it's also like just a little bit of history. Like you also see it in like TV shows, movies all the time. Book of Eli, and so like they put all these little hints of just like the occult.
Right. Watch out now, bro.
The occult.
Why do you point at me when you say that? Because I'm Jewish? Why?
No, but I do love history. I want to go back to comedy. We were talking earlier about bombing. So when it comes to bombing, I think there's 2 ways of bombing. Either A, you stick to what you write, or B, you just jump into and just admit to everybody you're bombing. It's like, yep, I'm bombing. How y'all doing? Like, how do you feel?
Do you mean like different ways of like handling
it?
Yeah, man. I think it depends. Like I mean, I think I agree with what you said. As far as like just holding steady and doing the material you came to do and hoping that you dig yourself out of the hole, or versus like, I mean, I do think that there's value. I've definitely had that where I don't get the response that I'm looking for, and I make a joke about how I didn't get a good response, and that kind of brings people back. But I don't know, dude. It's like the writing thing, Like I don't think there's any one answer, right? Like, I mean, I think that the bottom line is no matter what, you have to be able to, you have to at least look like you're still confident and like it's not getting to you. I think the worst thing, there you go, we won't talk about how to handle it. I think there's multiple ways to do that, but I would say the way not to handle it is to let people see like, oh fuck, I've lost my gusto or whatever, like, you know, I'm a deer in headlights now because you're not laughing and oh my god, this is the end of the world. Like, I think that's what you need to not do.
I hate when people start attacking the crowd. Like, well, fuck you.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly. But that's what I'm talking about, and I agree with you, man. Like, if you start saying like, oh, well, it's not because of me, it's because you guys are fucking stupid. Like you've already shown them that they've gotten to you. You know what I mean? Like, there was man, and like, it's interesting. I just went to a mic this week for the first time. And I didn't go to perform. It was a bar mic, and my buddy invited me. He was performing, so I just went to show support. And, like, there was this lady sitting at the bar who was a regular and, like, was still probably contributing a little too much, you know, to a stand-up show. But, excuse me, like, people were, like, getting mad at her and, like, trying to shit on her and, like, you know, get her to shut up and all these things. And, like, there's two things about that bother me. Like, number one, that's a lady drinking by herself at a bar. To me, like, that's not a happy person to begin with. You know? Like, you know, like, for the most part, you don't go and drink by yourself and get hammered because you're a happy person. You know what I'm saying? Like, if, you know, like, I'm not saying that you can't drink with friends or whatever. Obviously, it's a social thing. But if you're by yourself, chances are, you know, things aren't going so hot. You know what I mean? Like, but so that said, you know, there's that. Why are you shitting on somebody who is not in a good place? You know, I heard one of my buddies was telling me that there's a guy who goes to auditions at this club every week and has a suspicion that he might be on, you know, like the spectrum, that like he doesn't necessarily get it because, you know, he runs the light and, you know, he's not, you know, subjectively funny, you know what I mean? Like, and people shit on him after, and I'm like that's fucking terrible, dude. Like,
I mean, how do any of them take the opportunity to go and talk to him?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, so this is not firsthand. This is just, but when I hear about that, and I hear about comics are getting upset, and like, you know, she did say that I guess people have tried to explain to him the light, but at the same time, you know, I wonder if that's like a chicken or the egg thing, you know, kind of like this lady at the bar is, I didn't see the first time that she was there, you know, like, apparently she's there frequently, like every week she comes. So I don't know if it started out the first time that she contributed, but like you're saying, man, I seriously doubt that anybody took a nicer approach and was like, hey, so, I mean, like, I don't know if you watch a lot of comedy, but, you know, it's not really a two-way conversation. Like, you know, if you could let me do my jokes. And, you know, there's different ways to do that, right? But that leads me to the second thing, right? Like, number one, she's drinking by herself, probably not a happy person. Number two, a different way to look at it is that she was the only person, and we were talking about this earlier, right? How often comics just fucking ignore other comics, even though they know how difficult it is for some of us to get up there. You know what I mean? Like, and in that regard, like, dude, she's the only one paying attention to each and every comic and having a good time and trying to contribute. So it's like, it's twofold to me. It's like, shame on you guys. Like, you're trying to make her feel bad, and on top of that, she's the only one listening to your shitty ass jokes.
But what she likes that? What if she likes that though? Like, she keeps coming back, so maybe it's kind of her way of like, you know, masochistically.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's, but it could be that. You know, I feel like it's more, you know, like any type of attention, right? Any, you know, like any press is good press type deal. Like, you know, if she doesn't have anybody to talk to, somebody's still talking to her. Like, maybe it's not the way she wants to, but I mean, maybe that's the only way she knows how to get it. You know what I mean? Like, that was worded kind of funny. Phrasing. Phrasing, you know, it's actually,
2000's called.
It's so funny because, like, one of the dudes who was at the mic, too, was talking about that. He's like, yeah, are you just trying to get fucked, lady? Like, you want to get tongue fucked? You know, that type of shit. And I'm like, bro, like, I don't know.
Hey, man, maybe he's wanting to get some.
Yeah, I think he was trying to, bro. I think he failed, but you know, like, although they both disappeared for a little while after that, so maybe he did get it.
Maybe
you know?
he did. Maybe
she came back in a pretty good mood, bro. You know, like
maybe.
But yeah, you know, that's I don't know. That's kind of how I look at that sort of thing. You know, like, you know, there's probably a nicer way to do that, which is, you know, like,
deal with hecklers.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there's a certain point too, right? You know, like, have you seen that video of the guy who gets Spartan kicked at the pizza place?
I think so. I think. I think I saw it. Was like right after the Dave Chappelle, the Chris Rock slap, right?
I don't know how recently it actually happened, but like somehow I don't know if I think my buddy sent it to me because he saw it on Reddit or something, and like the guy's got like a foil hat on, and he's got a voice. He kind of talks like this, right? And like he's like, yo, if you keep messing with me, man, I don't. And then the comic's like, yeah, like don't come at me, dude. And the guy just kind of is like walking towards him with I don't know, fucking like mozzarella sticks in his hand or something like that. And the guy fucking Spartan kicks him in the chest. And this is like an older dude. The comic's probably, like not too far from our age.
Yeah.
This guy's got to be 50 or 60 or something.
Late
and he
20.
just fucking goes down.
Yeah.
And like you see people in the comments like, yeah, he had what was coming to him. I'm like, nah, bro, that guy's a piece of shit. Like, you really think that guy's going to do you some bodily harm? And beyond that, like, the comic was shitting on him to begin with.
Yeah.
Leave the guy alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I get that. I mean, there was one time at a Sunset Rooftop. It was like a month or two after the whole Chris Rock slap, and this one comic, he was saying something, and this one black dude went up there and like took offense, like shut the fuck up, and sorry about that, and I was like, I'm a comic, I'm talking whatever I want, and the dude like walked up and said he started like getting a fight and this and that, and like it was all caught on video, and like they pressed charges and this and that. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but I don't think like unless the person comes up to me. Like, they're in the stands, you know what I mean?
Well, and even if they come up to you, bro, like, if they're not taking a swing, a lot of people are just, dogs that are barking, you know what I mean? They're not really trying to bite, Like, I guess there's a certain amount of I can understand the idea of, like, I don't want to find out, but...
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, I mean, there is fucking... But exactly, like, that's the thing is, like... And maybe that's... maybe I'm biased, too, because, like, I've been hit in the face a lot. I've trained for a long time, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like... I don't think it's right to make that assumption, dude. You know what I'm saying? I guess it's... And there's a case-by-case, too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if a fucking old man wearing a tinfoil hat is making... Or is upset because I'm making fun of him, number one, like... we come back to the idea of, even with this lady too, like people were trying to make people laugh. Two things. They were trying to make people laugh by shitting on the lady. And, they were also trying to make the lady shut up and feel bad, And it's like, write your own fucking material, Like, maybe you should have come with actual material if you're upset. Maybe she would shut up if she was laughing because of what you said. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's that aspect, right?
Yeah.
But, like...
But that's the thing about, like, bars, especially bar mics, is a lot of times it's like the bar is the more important part. You're just there in the back, like you don't really matter.
Yeah, dude.
And like there's times when you go to a bar mic and like everyone was just shut the fuck up.
Right. Well, but the thing is, like, that's part of it, right? And to me, that's part of the growth. There is fucking open mics that are not even at bars that are like that. You know what I mean? Like some of the spots, like there's people that are chilling. There might be 30 people in the room. There's only 5 people sitting down in chairs, and the rest of them are in the back talking while the comic's doing his thing.
Yeah.
And like to me, like. I have mixed feelings because, again, I'm coming from a perspective of, I'm really big on respect. Like
the arts.
Yeah, it's like, regardless of what it is, have enough respect. People were listening when they might have been, maybe they were talking too, but like, have some respect. Again, it's not easy for a lot of people to get up and do that. A lot of people worked really hard on their material in order to come and tell these jokes and get honest feedback. And so, like, yeah, like, it's not that hard to just shut up for 5 minutes and pay attention to the show. You might even, be inspired and, write a material bit, or you might make a friend, like, you talk to them after, like, we're talking about workshopping and stuff too, you could help each other, but, like, you're just being disruptive or you're being butthurt, it's like, doesn't help anybody, you know what I mean? And, like, the bar mics, like, okay, so, but that's more like the negative side, right? Like, where I feel like us as comics, we can do better in that regard. And it's not like that black and white either, right? I'm not saying like that you're a bad person just because you're talking during somebody else's set. There's nothing wrong with, having friends and socializing and stuff too, right? But there's still a certain, if you're doing
but it's different between if they're a comic versus they're a patron in the bar, I feel like. Because if they're a patron in the bar...
Yeah, who gives a fuck, right? You
know
what I mean? Like,
I feel that's the different thing, because she's still a patron in the bar, that old lady. So, I mean, it's she wants to. She has another person right next to her just talking. They could talk the whole time.
Absolutely.
And they're patrons. Like, and you can try and shit on them, but it's just mainly, like, I feel like you just complain more with just the comics, too, at that point.
Well, yeah, right? Like, if the lady at the bar is directly interacting with the comics, again, everybody, you know, I feel like maybe we fall into the pitfall sometimes because we are in clubs and doing mics and doing shows, all this type of stuff, and so we know how a show is supposed to work. Like, generally, obviously, hecklers are a thing and it happens, but it's like, is it supposed to happen? No, that's not really the format of a show, right? But there's a lot of people who have never been to a comedy show before.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I've been at a comedy show where this one girl, it was a show / it was at a restaurant bar, and she was all the way in the back, and she was talking loud, like excessively loud, to the point where like every comic who was up like tried to talk over her loud. You know what I mean?
This is at a show. This is not even like
it's like
an
outdoor
mic or whatever.
It's not an outdoor. It's like so does a show, but it's at a bar outside. You know.
Okay.
And kind of like a restaurant. You know what I mean? It was in the Simi Valley. And the one comic went up there and he called her out by name because she also works there. She was a waitress and her name was like Vanessa Victoria or something like that. And he was like, "Hey, I know you work here, but can you keep it down for us and that?" And he just like put a whole like 1 minute up about her, just the opening, and then she like was quiet as of that, thankfully. But then we found out afterwards that she ended up crying. but the funny part is. He's like, "Oh man, I felt bad that she ended up crying." Every comic who went up before that is like, "Good, I'm glad she cried. Fuck her."
Well, which is, and you know, that's like, again, I feel that's kind of like the childish mentality that people have, right? Like, oh, well, like, haha, she got what was coming to her because she wouldn't shut the fuck up. Like, nah, bro, don't be a dick. Like, you know, again, you could handle that differently. You know, like, now that said, I'm not saying that people should be able to take a joke too, right? Like if what the guy says, and there's very
it wasn't
degrees,
anything
right?
malice or malicious. It was just because she was spotlighted. She was
right. She was embarrassed.
She was embarrassed. That's all it was.
No, and
everyone laughed.
And that's the thing is like I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe I'm okay with roasting. You know what I'm saying? But like to a point too, especially whether you know that she cried or not. You know, Blaize is like, I love when bitches cry. I don't know why my Charlie would get, I love when bitches cry. You know? I said that bitch's smiley face.
She was crying next to the smiley face.
From the Boondocks, dude. That she was great. But yeah, dude, I mean, like, you could still handle that, like, coming back to, like, tasteless jokes, right? There was a mic that I went to, and a trans woman was hosting it, right? And like, quick tangent, but related. Like, I have a couple of jokes about trans people, but I still, and nowhere in the joke do I fail to acknowledge that trans women are women, and it's like they're still more well thought out, like it's not just like. And the reason I bring that up is because like two things. One is that when I told this joke, she laughed louder than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
But I still went up to her after the show because I was like, hey, I just want to let you know. Like, for one, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you can laugh about that because, like, I'm not here to hurt anybody's feelings. But I still was like, and because, like, you obviously don't know me, but I just, like, I want you to know that it's, like, it's not coming from anywhere malicious.
Any place of hate.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing. She laughed. I didn't really have to say that to her. But it's still important to me that she knows that, like, and so that's, like, where I think about that, that situation, whether you know that she cried or not, it's like, hey, like, I wasn't trying to make you feel bad, but like, do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Like, we're doing our thing up here. It's not easy. Like, could you try and keep it down? Like, if you're aware, you know what I mean? Like, it's not hard to do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I know a lot of people. she got what was
coming below. Did she get what she deserved?
You should have slapped her too.
Slap me. Shut the fuck out of me.
Hey, I don't know, but I mean, I guess that's also part of the territory, right? Like, I mean. It's a lot of angry people doing comedy, Like, I feel like that's kind of one of the prerequisites, Like,
either you're happy or depressed.
That was some deep shit, bro. Pretty obvious, though, motherfucker. Like, Blaize fucking philosopher over here. You're either happy or you're sad, Like, no, I'm just fucking with you, dude. But, like, there's nuance, though. But, no, but it's true, dude. Like, it's true. Yeah. I mean, like...
Every comic has their own flavor. It's hard. Like, no one... Unless you actually, word for word, steal a person's joke and, like, their style. Like, it's... Everyone has their own flavor. And you can tell when someone's faking it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, though, when you talk about, like, being happy or being sad. I'm trying to think of, like... Can you think of, like... Of a comic that their thing is that they're just always happy though? Like when you think about it, right? I mean, like, even if you know, like for example,
maybe actually funny. Might be the most fucked up thing ever. Bill Cosby.
But there's that underlying shit too. You know, to be fair, like I don't really. I'd have to look it up, man, because like, yeah, obviously I know about the bad stuff, but like I don't think I ever have seen any of Bill Cosby's actual stand-up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you take other people though, right? Eddie Murphy in his movies, doing like children's movies a lot of times, right? Yeah. But I mean, you go back to like Eddie Murphy Raw, dude.
Hilarious.
I mean, like, yeah, dude, that shit is great. And it's yeah, dude, exactly. Talking about like, you know, his dad being a drunk and all this type of stuff. Talking about like, you know, gay people before, you know, saying things that today he wouldn't get away with, right?
Yeah.
But like,
well, I mean, his like, gay joke was kind of funny because, well, it's kind of because like,
which one?
The one about he's wearing a tight red leather dress. Or the red leather.
Oh yeah, that's.
He's like, I gotta keep my shit moving. Can't wait. Let you stare too hard. Whoa, that's too long.
Yeah, no one just stare because masks get hot. Yeah, dude. Yeah. But no, it's. But I mean, regardless, you know. And so coming back to that was the point that I was gonna make too about the host who was a trans lady, right? And the contrast, right? Like, if it's clever, if it's thought out, you should be able to laugh at yourself, you know, like. Versus, you know, like there's a comic who got up like right after me, and he did this more than once, where like, you know, he knows the woman's name, and he would get up and his joke was like, hey, give it up for Bob one more time, you know, like thanks Bob, like hey Bob, how big's your dick, you know? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, you know, like, and there's, I know what I'm getting at is just the idea. I'm still gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he was trying to hurt her feelings, but when people get upset about jokes. It's much more understandable for somebody to get upset about that type of joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know her name. She said her name when she was hosting the thing. Yeah. So you're coming up and you're being disrespectful on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's kind of like, that's how I view it. So
dead name is a big thing nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, well, even that. I mean, that is a concept too. Like, so you're supposed to, you know, like... You're just supposed to forget an entire portion of people's life. Like, what is this, the Bible? Like, Jesus from 18 to 33? Like, no, we don't talk about those years, you know what I mean? He was partying pretty hard at that point. No, and, like, that's obviously even that, right? That's a religious thing. You get in trouble for saying that sort of thing. But regardless, like, you know, I think that there's two sides to every coin. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can respect a trans person and, you know, whether they're now a man or whether they're a woman, you know, like... You can respect that, and at the same time, like, I don't think that it's disrespectful necessarily because, you know, and again, this is why we need to be able to communicate. Yeah. Because to me, the concept of, like, if I knew you as a child and you were Joe and now you're Jessica, you know what I mean? Like, two things. One, if I slip up and call you Joe by mistake, I don't think you should bite my head off for that. And two, like, the idea of, like, oh, remember when we were in Boy Scouts and blah, blah, blah? Like, you know, like, that could be considered dead naming. People could get upset about that, right?
Really?
Because
I haven't heard that one. Well, you're acknowledging their past?
Exactly. Like, that's supposed to a point, like, and, you know, I'm sure it depends on the person who's actually going to get offended.
I feel like it's like if I was an alcoholic and then I went to rehab and I'm clean now. Like, not to say, like, being I
was going to say, bro, that's a little, you're treading dangerous.
But, like, just because...
He said trans is an addiction.
Well, I mean, they're addicted. They're addicted to the opposite, to the... I don't even know how to finish that joke. I'm just like...
I put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I was like... everything I say is like, nope.
Blaize is like, back away slowly.
like it's a bear. Like, don't make eye contact. Back away slowly.
Oh, so now you're talking about the gays.
Don't let it see your behind.
But yeah, dude, like... No, man, it's tough, right? Like, again... It's a comedy club, right? So I'm not gonna say that. I still try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Here's a, you know, like an interesting thing, right? Maybe it's not interesting. I don't know. You know, giving myself too much credit. But I remember seeing a comic one time, and he was a black dude, and he was talking about Bojangles Chicken is a chain in the South.
It's pretty good.
And I might ruin it for you. I'm sorry, bro. No. But it's crocodile is what it is. No.
That's not bad.
Like it's iguana. You know what I'm saying? but nah, dude. Like, he was talking about how that's a terrible name for a chicken place because Bojangles was an artist way back, you know, during segregation and stuff, and like he was not allowed to walk into the front entrance of places he was performing at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and the thing that it's a fried chicken place, you know, like, it's playing on stereotypes is what he was saying,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, that's a terrible thing. And, like, his joke basically, like, he was like, that would be like, excuse me, having a brick oven pizza place and calling it Anne Frank's. And, like...
That's hilarious.
No, I was going to say, I don't want to make you...
That's hilarious.
like, me personally, like, I'm Jewish, right? And, like, I went to Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam, right?
Yes.
And, like, I'm not saying that I expected that to be a happy visit, but I also was not expecting it to touch me as much as it did. Like, I literally was holding back tears the entire time. And, like, there's a place where you go behind the bookshelf where the family actually hid out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a glass case in the room that, you know, their main room that they had.
Yeah.
And there's a book the size of a fucking dictionary. And in this book is nothing but the names of all, I think it's 900,000 Jewish, maybe that's, I don't know. There's a lot of fucking Jews. But I mean, like, it's literally a book, and it's nothing but names of Jews who were killed in the Holocaust, who lived in Amsterdam. Yeah. And, like, I saw that, and that got me. Like, that, I started crying, you know what I mean? Mm. Like, and people don't recognize that sort of thing. Like, and I don't want to make it sound like it's wrong to laugh about that. It's not. I'm not, you know, like, whatever. But what I'm getting at is just the idea that it's a comedy club. That joke was a little too close to home for me. I was not able to laugh at it, but I didn't take it offensively. I wasn't going to call him, like, you know, a racist or get upset at him for a joke.
But it's a good analogy, though.
But you know, like, but that's what the brick oven pizza. Like, all right, bro, we're going to get into that. It's not factual. No Jews were killed in the oven. They were disposed of in the oven, all right, dude? They were gassed or shot or whatever. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
or worked to death.
Yeah, I mean, there's
He's
some...
like, you're going to kill my vibe, bro.
We started with Kanye, now we're here. Now we're here. Full circle.
Oh, man. Another quick... We were talking about it, too, like the Hitler and and now we're literally talking about the Holocaust. And this is a thing that I learned about more recently. Like, Godwin's law is a thing. Crazy shit. Apparently, like, Godwin's law says that the longer any discussion takes place online, the more, the way that they put it is, the probability that a reference to Hitler or the Holocaust will happen approaches 1, which means 100%.
Yeah.
Like, the longer it happens, it's gonna fucking happen. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's just, you know, that's my TED Talks. You know?
I've heard that.
But that's crazy, right? But no, like, what I'm getting at is, you know, again, in the context of a comedy club, I'm not gonna it's fine. You know what I mean? It's not my joke. Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm not mad at it. But again, like, I'm always, you know, thinking about stuff and trying to write. And so, like, you know, my thought was I had kind of like an add-on leading up to the Anne Frank thing, right? Mm-hmm. And let's preface what I said with this. The whole point, the whole premise of that joke is that it's absurd and it's offensive to name these things that, right? Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, you know, I talked to him after the club, or after the show, and, like, I'm like, hey, man, I liked your set. And I did. You know, he was actually my favorite comic that night, you know, and I said to him, like, have you ever thought about, which also dangerous, right, when you start approaching a comic about, like, their writing, right? But, you know, I wasn't like, yeah, you should say. I was like, you know, I do some writing too. Did you think ever about like doing this? Like, I was thinking, like, what if before the Anne Frank thing, after Bojangles Chicken, you're like, that would be like having a halal restaurant and calling it The Bomb, right? Or that would be like, you know, like you have a restaurant called The Great Wall, which of course is a Mexican restaurant, you know, right?
And I was thinking China.
I was gonna go so.
I was thinking China.
That's the point, is the misdirection. And, like, I know you've told me that you're Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so that's the thing is, my point is that the whole point is that it's absurd. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's a touchy subject because fucking Agent Orange wanted to build a fucking wall to keep people out. Mm-hmm. But there's two things about that. One is that it didn't actually happen. And two is that nobody got hurt. Some people got hurt. Like, families are taken apart, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the wall specifically. But the whole point, again, coming back to the premise, is that these things would be absurd and offensive, you know? And so, like, to me, my joke where no Hispanic people were harmed in the writing of my joke, you know what I'm saying? Versus, like, 6 million Jews, you know, were killed in the writing of his joke. And I still don't think that it's wrong for him to tell that joke. What I'm getting at is the what he said to me. He looked me straight in the eye after he said it, and he's like, oh, that's racist, you know? And I'm like, okay, so what I said is racist, and I know that he's saying that because I'm a white dude, you know what I'm saying? But what you're saying is not racist because because why? You know what I'm saying? And, maybe he was telling me to, basically just go fuck myself or whatever. Like, I don't want to hear your advice.
Yeah.
But still, to me, I'm like, bro, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, these are jokes. We're at a comedy club. You know what I'm saying? The whole point is, and, again, talking about the discussion, right? Like, you didn't laugh at that joke, which is fine, like, and if it bothers you, that's the point, is we need to be able to have these discussions. I think that you have enough of a feeling for me as a person at this point.
I would say I just didn't understand it, because when you said Great Wall, I thought I was thinking China, not Mexicans.
Which is exactly the point, right? Is that, like, I want people to think China and then go in a different direction, because the Great Wall of China, that's not offensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're calling a place the Great Wall, that's a fucking offensive thing. That fits in with that joke. You know what I'm saying? So, like I'm saying, is like, the point is that it's not a malicious thing. Anyway, I mean, what is the point, right? It's just like, humor is so subjective. You know what I'm saying? And like, again, it just comes back to the idea that we need to be able to have discussions about that type of thing. So you're getting quiet, Blaize. Like,
no, I'm just listening. I'm listening.
Tell me how you feel now.
No, I like it. Because the thing is, like, for that, the only time I think of it is like the swastika. Yeah. Like Hitler took the swastika from the Buddhists, because it originally means peace. Right. But all he did was just turn it 45-degree angle, and now everyone uses it as a symbol of hate. Right. But if you go, like, in a lot of places in Asia, they have the swastika everywhere, but it's upright. And so I feel like, for me, it's like, would you feel like reclaiming the swastika and trying to make it something as some peaceful?
No, man. Well, I mean, reclaiming it, that's difficult, right? Like, I think it comes back to the context thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I heard that guy say that joke at a bar to a stranger, I'd be like, that's kind of a fucked up thing to say. He said it at a comedy club in front of people, and like, so I'm like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's not funny to me, then it didn't resonate with me, but I'm not going to take it as an attack, because I don't think we should. But like what you're saying is, like, and a perfect example of that is, I was in this class years ago, and there was an Asian guy who had swastikas tattooed on his forehead. Yeah. And I remember people, like, having the response, like, kind of talking, like, how could he do that? Like, what, doesn't he know what that means? It's like, no, motherfucker, don't you know what that means? Yeah. You know what I mean? He comes from a place where, like, maybe they don't even learn about the Holocaust in school. Yeah. I don't know. Like, we have this... I
mean, to be fair, like, I always say America loves to, like, relive World War II over and over and over and over again. I feel like, we don't talk about the Vietnam War, because we lost there. I mean, like, we don't talk about the Iraqi War, but, like, we fantasize the World War II, which I think at this point is like, let's move on. I mean, like, we it's kind of sick how we, glorify war so much in America.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you 100%, like, but, it's kind of like when you talk about reclaiming something, I don't know that it's so much that, like, when you talk about reclaiming, also touchy subject, right? Yeah. The N-word, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that I should be able to say the N-word, or that you should be able to say the N-word, or whatever, that only black people should be able to say it. To be honest, I don't think anybody should say it. Like, as far as being able to, whatever, like, because, the idea that, we're taking it back, and so we're taking away the meaning that it has. Yeah. It's like, to anybody who say that, I would ask, like, well, would you still get mad if a white dude called you that? Yeah. And the answer is probably yes. And that means that you've taken zero power away from that word. Yeah.
I mean, you give words power. The power of words only have the power that you give them. And it's something that I've thought about since, freshman year of college. Yeah. Is the word bitch. You know what I mean? Like, bitch, I was having a conversation, and I was like, this motherfucking bitch. You know what I mean? Yeah. I, like, not like that, like, in the context as using, like, more like an adjective, not as a noun. And this one girl, she comes out of nowhere, she's like, you can't say bitch. And I was like, yeah, I can say bitch, because this is a fucking bitch and ass situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. And it's not a person, it's not a woman, and she's like, oh, it's sexist. I'm like, it's not sexist, it's an adjective.
It's a fucking female dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, absolutely. And to be fair, like what you're talking about, like, I try not to call, and again, it's not a judgment on anybody who does. I personally make an effort not to call women bitches, unless they're really a bitch.
Yeah, bitch is a bitch, so people are bitch.
But yeah, I'm not going to be like, oh, my bitch this, oh, this, you know what I'm saying? Like,
unless I'm friends, but this is my bitch.
Right, exactly.
Which is also a different context, which is we're bringing back to the word. Is like the same one with the N-word. Like, this is my N-word, and people say it like that, and that's different. Versus like, oh, that,
right. You know what I mean? No, for sure. And that, like, that's the context and intention thing too, right? Like, again, that joke that I offered that guy that I wasn't going to tell myself, like, because that's part of, that would be for his joke about Anne Frank or whatever, which, by the way, like, PSA, I'm not a Trumper, all right? Like, I don't want anybody to think that, like, I believed in what he was trying to do. That is the whole point of that, is that it's ridiculous what he was trying to do, and for you to, anyway, but so, like, the idea, like, you talk about, like, the N-word, bitch, all that type of stuff, story, like, my grandpa, right? He was born in 1917, okay? He was a social worker for 40 years, had friends of all sorts, was not a racist, okay? And I say that's important because one of the times that we were eating at this deli, he leans over to me and there's like this kind of, big black dude sitting next to us or whatever. And I mean next to us, at a table, a couple of feet that way. But he was also hard of hearing. So he leans over to me, he's like, hey, Kevin, you see that colored guy over there? And just like you, like, I was like, gee, you can't say that. Like, that's not cool, bro. Like, but at the same, and, I think, like, I was worried, not because my grandpa's a racist and that I'm worried that he has those feelings. I'm worried because I know that somebody who doesn't know my grandpa or his story or what type of person he is might take that out of context and be like, oh, this old guy's a fucking racist. Like, no, dude, my grandpa's 100 years old. When he was born, when he was growing up, that was literally the nicest thing that people called black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we get caught up in our bubble so much. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's, the time that we grow up, whether it's the place we grow up, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of these things, like, everybody lives in a bubble, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
There's different types of bubbles, you know what I mean? I mean, take Twitter. Like, I don't give a shit about Twitter. It's just a big echo chamber. People I hang out with don't really give a shit that Elon bought Twitter, but, like, it's all over the news. Like, oh my god, Twitter's going to be destroyed. How will democracy survive without Twitter? Bitch, we've had democracy for fucking 200 years before Twitter.
Right.
Like, it's literally... It goes back to, like, when companies would get upset because they got a whole bunch of letters. I'm like, don't open the fucking letters.
Right.
Don't read the fucking tweets.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, this thing, it has like, I think 8% of the population's on Twitter or something like that. Like, 8% of the people are freaking out.
Yeah.
And, like, of that 8%, 1% of that is freaking out. So it's like, it's very minute. Like, there's all echo chambers. Just like...
Well, it's like, it's a lot of those things, right? Like, as far as... Beyond the fact that, like you said, it's a fucking tweet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a tweet. Why do you fucking care?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, again, the reality TV, society that we live in, everybody wants to create drama where there is not necessarily any, like, whether it's, I don't like the way that this person said it and I misunderstood it, and instead of saying, what did you mean by that? I'm going to say, you're a piece of shit. I don't like what you said. Or the other thing of, like, kind of the same thing. You don't know my grandpa's story, but you hear him, refer to a person of color as a colored person one time out of context, and you make all of these assumptions about him. Like, no, that's not right either. You can't just take a small portion of something and then blow it, extrapolate it so that it's just this huge thing. I mean,
that's what Twitter is now.
You can't, but people do all the fucking time, dude.
I mean, that's what Twitter is now. I mean, there's that one kid. He was standing there, and that one Indian guy walked up to him, and he just stood there, just like, okay.
See, and again, like, we're comics.
Yeah, I
don't know what I was going to say is, like, I know that this is offensive, but the whole point is that it's a joke. You said Indian guy, and I was going to be like, you mean like Indian or like Indian? You know what I mean? Like, like...
Native American, fine.
But no, you know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing, is that, like, the context has, like, this, hopefully people that watch this understand that we're comics talking about...
Well, we're not only that, we're not fucking, like, proper people. You know what I mean? Like, I say things in like, I guess you could say Indians kind of like the same way your grandfather said colored people.
Exactly, dude. And, like, like, what does that mean? Does that mean that I think you're a racist? No, absolutely. I mean, of course you're a racist.
Obviously, I'm Mexican.
Like, me too, dude. I'm a white dude. Like, my hair's growing back, but usually I shave it. You've seen it, like, dude, like, I look more like a guy who kills Jews than a Jew. You know what I mean? Like, but so yeah, dude, no, it is really important, I think, to take stuff with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
I think that's, like, a big problem these days is, like, even though I'm big on respect, and I think that we need to respect each other more, at the same time as we also need to respect each other more, we need to lighten the fuck up, you know what I mean? Like, there's, nothing is completely black and white. Everything's a shade of gray, right? Like, I don't know. People make things... They complicate things by making them too simple. That shit was deep, bro. Like, I wrote that before I came.
Put that on your fucking essay. No, I get that. I mean, I've been in a situation where people like misunderstood because of the way I said something. They misunderstood my intentions of what I said.
Yeah,
and that can happen. You know, and if a person doesn't know you, then they can pick up that intention much differently versus someone who doesn't know you.
Right.
And I've been told after we left the situation, someone's like, "Blaize, why are you so harsh on that person?" I was like, "I don't even know how I was harsh. I was laughing at them. Like, I was just joking around." I was like, "Bro, that was really fucked up." And I was like, "Was it?"
Yeah.
I just talked about the dead mother. I was kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Just imagine that.
Dude, that's, you know, that's funny you say that. So, like, and again, I don't know that kids are doing that so much these days, right? But, like, you know, when we were growing up, you know, like, your mama jokes were a big thing, right? You could joke about people's mamas, right? And, like, again, in our bubble, I had a friend, one of my best friends growing up, like, I used to go, my family is, like, half my family's in France. And
okay, nice.
Over there. So, like, I've been lucky enough, like, you know, my grandma used to help us out, and, you know, like, bring us out there and stuff. Nice. So I got to go there for a summer, and, like, my buddy came with us one year, not my like, he comes from a, you know, a family with means as well, you know, so, like,
he's good enough
I
off.
say as well, like, he's
well off.
He's well off, yeah, that's putting it lightly, but, like,
I'm not sure.
But no, but that's my boy, you know what I mean, like, and he came with us one summer, and I remember telling him, I don't even know why I told him, but somehow, like, maybe because we were, like, heavy into the your mama jokes, and, like, I told him, I was like, listen, in France, you don't joke about people's mamas, like, it's not cool, it's not a joke like where we're from, you know. And I was like, in France, fun fact, talk about their sister. You know, like, the thing is, like, that's so, you know what I mean?
Fuck your sister.
Exactly, dude.
You sister fucker.
Bro, and we went to this thing, it was like a party at the camp or whatever that we were at, and, like, some guy was being a dick to him, you know, kind of like, you know, playing him, calling him a baby, basically. He's like, yeah, you know, get the fuck out of here, just, like, brushing him off like a real asshole. He's like, says, get out of here. And my friend says, like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll just go see your mom. And I'm like, oh, you didn't. I fucking warned you, dude. I told you not to, and you still did. And this guy shoots back with, my mom is dead. And is about to fight my friend. And again, like, the guy says, your mom's dead. I was like, I fucking told you not to. Like, and you found the perfect dude to say that.
Perfect dude. Oh, when people ask and people ask. Oh,
but yeah, dude, and that's, you know, that's... You know, that guy obviously can't know that we come from a place where it's not a big deal. All that guy heard is, you made a joke about my mom who's dead, and I'm going to fucking whoop your ass now, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, can you blame him? Like, not really. Like, you know, like, again, it's the context, right? Like, you could tell my friend has an accent, you know, when he speaks French, so, like, you could have probably inferred that the guy's not from there or whatever. Mm-hmm. But still, you know, is that really his responsibility? Especially in that case, it was on him because I fucking warned him, bro. I warned him. Don't talk about people's mamas.
I mean, you know, freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences. You can say whatever the fuck you want to somebody, but don't mean someone can do nothing about you.
That's right, dude. That's right.
I mean, I'm a big believer. You can say whatever the fuck you want, but don't mean people gonna like it.
You know, that's true, and I gotta say, Blaize, you know, like, again, I feel comfortable enough with you, but, like, I got some little PTSD, right? Because my buddy sent me this video of, like, a podcast where I think it was two rappers or something talking to each other, and whatever, this guy says something and this other dude, you know, says, like, I don't know who you are. So that kind of started, he's kind of attacked him, and then the guy calls him a bitch. He's like, yeah, you a bitch, you know. And the guy just gets up and starts swinging on him, you know? and the joke is that he swings on the guy, and then they cut and they're, like, pulling the guy off of him, and you see the dude who got swung on just all bloody and shit. He's like, yeah, you still a bitch, homie. The funny thing is, like, I agree with the guy who got his ass whooped, because I'm like, oh, you know, like, your feelings got hurt and you had to swing on a dude, like, that is kind of a bitch move.
That is a bitch move.
But at the same time, yeah, dude, like, I don't know. The reason I bring that up, I got PTSD, dude. Like, no, man. Like,
I'm not gonna beat you up.
Okay, all right, bro. I told you I do karate, bro. Like, yeah. But nah, dude. Like, it's, you know, you gotta. That feeds into the whole just respecting people thing, dude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I look at it in the sense of, like, we're animals anyway, right? And, like, to me, like, whether somebody's bigger than you or smaller than you or whatever, like, I don't agree. On the one hand, I don't agree with the idea like if I don't like what you say, I'm gonna fuck you up because I'm bigger and stronger than you, right?
Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
Mentally,
also, yeah. Well, but I also think that it's wrong for like for example, and again, I'll preface this with I don't believe in violence towards women, like but I never hit a girl who didn't ask me to during sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that said, like. I also don't agree with like the 90-pound chick that you see in these videos who's just getting up in some big ass dude's face and talking shit, spilling her drink, like slapping, like I'm not saying that dude should swing on you, but at the same time, like you need to fucking not do that. Like, what makes you think this whole idea of like society is a construct that allows me to do this shit? Like, nah, like we're still animals, and so there are still people who say fuck society. I'll slap the shit out of you.
A bitch is a bitch.
And so there you go, bro. Like that's why I think it goes both ways, dude. Like why can't we just respect each other?
Yeah.
Because you don't know, who is the bigger dog. Like you could always be wrong.
That's true. That's true. It's crazy, especially here in LA. You don't know who has a weapon. Everyone's got something out here.
Yeah.
We'll start wrapping up soon, but I want to finish off with one question that I always love to ask, especially with comics, is what is your level of success when it comes to comedy? Like when you because people have different levels of success. Some people they want to be writers on TV.
What would I like? What is it? Okay, guys.
What would you feel like success was? So some people they want to be a writer on like Conan. Some people they want to be a touring act. Some people they just want to be an opener. And you know what I mean? They just want to, or they want to be like just a comic who does acting stuff or voiceover stuff. What would make you feel satisfied?
Just because, like, when you first said that, what's your level of success? Is like you saw me at fourth wall last
night. No, but what is your vision of success?
Right,
vision of success.
The way I would put it is, it's tough because, like, the dream, right? The dream, like the ideal situation. Is I would like to write and direct films, TV shows, that type of thing. That's cool. The dream. And don't get me wrong, like I love the idea of doing comedy. If somebody wanted to pay me to do that, I would do that in a heartbeat. If I could sell a film, I would do that in a heartbeat, like but to me like the main goal is like if I could make it what I do for a living and essentially just make people think, make people laugh, touch people in some way, not the Bill Cosby way. Or but that to me would be a dream come true. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm easy. Like I don't need to be fucking, I'm thinking of like who's a big. I don't need to be Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I don't need to sell out Madison Square Garden in order to feel like I'm successful. You know, like to me, I'm doing this because I love it. You know? Like so.
So for you, your vision of success in your future would be more writing and directing.
Well, either way, dude. Like I said, like when it comes down to it, if it turned out that like stand up, because like I said, I love doing this. Like the absolute ideal situation, yes, I would love to be able to write and direct. Be a director. Even that. Like I say that. Comedy's like the context where I started, but like I don't just write comedy. You know what I mean? Like I want to tell stories. That affect people.
What steps would you take? Or could you take to like really fulfilling that dream and like really working towards becoming a director?
I mean, like
because that's hard. It's hard,
and obviously I'm trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, just doing it, man. Like as far as the people that I've listened to talk about it, that one piece of advice, for example, both as a writer and as a comic. Is that like people ask me what do I need to do in order to become a writer? Well, the number one answer is you need to fucking write. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, dude. Is just to me, it's just continuing to learn as much as I can, to meet as many people as I can, and just just keep at it, bro.
I mean, do you direct any of the adult films?
I have not directed yet, but I do feel like I'm approaching that place, dude. I wanna start doing my own stuff. Like I've done some photo shoots. I've run the camera. Like I've basically done everything that goes into that without actually doing that at this point. So like, I would do that too. Like I said, again, it's a funny way to think about it. And and coming back to that earlier point about you don't know how people. You don't know how you affect people, right? But like, and so I try to tell people positive things when I can, like, and I've told people like, I think that people that are doing porn, the performers and all that type of thing, like people making it, sure there are pieces of shit, but there's pieces of shit everywhere. You know what I'm saying? That's not specific to that. But what I'm getting at is like, they are doing a good thing, right? Because like, They are. I know it's funny, right? It's a funny thing to think about.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Why you gotta be so right?
But it is funny, right? No, dude, exactly. Think about how many people there are who are already sexually frustrated, and how much more sexually frustrated would they be if they couldn't go on fucking Pornhub or whatever their site of choice that pay for porn people. But how much more, or like these fantasies, right? Like the daddy dom little girl stuff. Like, I think I would much rather have a porn with a 20-year-old who looks like she's 12 so that these dudes could jerk off, rather than having them have no outlet and then actually finding a 12-year-old and doing something like that. Like, I read about supposedly, this is one article, I'm sure you could find counterpoints too, but they were saying like in places where prostitution is legal, there's actually less violence, sexual violence towards women.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so that's how I look at it.
Well, Japan has the same kind of idea. So they allow for mangas to draw CP. So I think it's called lolly or something like that.
CP is... I don't know. I feel like...
Child.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
CP. Like... I don't want to get dinged. Okay.
No. You're right. You're right. I work in AP, so like,
So it's like they allowed to draw it and distribute it because they say it cuts down on that urge to go out and go after little kids and girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same kind of thought process, legalizing the prostitution will also, help cut down on that situation. Honestly, what we need to have here in California, especially in America, we need to have those love hotels. Those love hotels in Japan are really nice.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Japan.
I was gonna say you've been.
I haven't been, but I've seen like a little. I've done some research.
Somebody was telling me about like the blowjob bars, dude. You know what I mean? Who's been? I can't wait to go to Japan. I don't know, but legitimately, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, dude. For same thing, like the sex workers, bro. Like. It's funny, we were talking about, and that's what I'm getting at as far as like the, because I was trying to remember why I got off on that tangent. But yeah, like making porn movies, dude. It's still making movies,
Yeah.
Like if I can make movies and that's how I'm making money, why not?
Doing indie
everybody's
films.
Got to eat, you know?
Indie films. I mean, people's like, oh, I want to be like, not Leo, what's the name? Pulp Fiction.
Quentin Tarantino.
Everyone wants to be Quentin Tarantino, you know what I mean? But not everyone can be Quentin Tarantino. So most people are just like regular, like they make like 2 or 3 movies a year, and all they do is like get a few $1,000s a year, but they live comfortably.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they're living their dream, dude.
They live in their dream, and it's not about being like like I said, Quentin Tarantino, but it's the people who also work around them, because those people also create films and create things that like. What is your favorite like? Not popular film, you would say? What is your like cult classic that you say is your favorite that's not really well known?
Wow, that's not well known.
For me, it's have you seen the movie Cats Don't Dance?
No.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's an animated movie about racism in Hollywood.
Okay.
So it's but so the humans get the major roles, but all the animals, they're just part roles. You know what I mean? They're assistant roles, like they're minor roles. So this one cat, he comes from Kokomo, Indiana, and he goes to Hollywood to make it big. You know what I mean? And he's like, he's trying to make it big, this and that. But he's finding out that no one's gonna give him big roles because he's an animal.
Right.
He's a cat.
Right.
So this whole movie is about like this one little Shirley Temple knockoff, Darlie Dimple.
Okay.
And her assistant Max. He's a lovely. I love him. He's a big ass, like 70-foot tall fucking man.
Okay.
He literally just he doesn't go through doors. He makes his own.
Okay.
But it's just like it's a great musical act. It's great fun, and it teaches a story about don't be racist.
Yeah.
But like something like that, and it really is one of those things that I just really loved, and I loved it. And it's what I named my first cat after. It was the main character. His name was Danny.
Okay.
So that's what that's like something like that.
That's tight.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So now that you mention it, like I'm trying to think like. It was, I don't know how big it was, but I mean, I feel like I talked to people about it, and a lot of people that I've talked to don't remember it. Bowfinger, if you remember that
Bowfinger?
Bowfinger. So Bowfinger was a movie with Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, and it's about, like, Steve Martin is kind of like a washed-up film director, and, his writer brings him this film called Chubby Rain, which is, like, it's one of those, there's a lot of things I like about it. I guess that's part of the reason. It's one of my favorite comedies, like, just in terms of like the different characters that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
A young Jamie Kennedy is in there too. Heather Graham, if you remember who she was in Austin Powers too. She was the blonde chick. Yeah. Great cast, man. But like, and it's about filmmaking, and it's about this guy who just like you're talking about wants to make it big, you know, and like basically Eddie Murphy plays this really big superstar, action star, and he also plays his twin brother, who's just like a dorky guy who just wants to make friends, basically, you know, and like. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff there, but yeah, okay, so that's probably one of them, you know, and like you know a lot of that stuff, you know, I guess I can relate to it, right? Because like. There's just so much truth there about like, you know, the type of people, you know, like, you know, people end up getting desperate, you know, they not even just being desperate, but, you know, just how much people want to live their dreams, man, you know, and like, I don't know, I'm probably not explaining it that well.
That's all good, man.
But Bowfinger, man. I would say Bowfinger is one of my favorite films. Yeah.
I have to look it up.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin, man, thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me, man.
Let everyone know where they can find you, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. What's your handles?
So on Instagram, I'm at SlizzleSlice. That's about it right now. I got to get on YouTube, but yeah, I mean, I do photography, videography right now. Nice. It's kevin.does.photos, but literally I just made that page, so we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
The name might change. SlizzleSlice.
So, right? Would you any place that you usually perform at, or something coming up that you like to promote?
So I'm at the Comedy Chateau. I do shows there. I just got booked at Flappers.
Nice.
I got booked at that's going to be the 23rd of December. And then I have a show the 14th in January at the Fourth Wall Cafe.
Nice.
So like it's kind of, you know, I'm in my like third year now. You know,
nice.
I'm just starting out my third year, and like, yeah, dude. So it's like it's a process, right? You know what I mean? So I'm starting to get
every day's a step, man.
Yeah,
every day's a step.
Yeah.
All right. Thank y'all for coming. Take care.